Hello everyone and welcome back to Sprocket, and if you're wondering why I sound or might sound different in this video, it's because I do have a cold, unfortunately, so apologies for any coughing or me sounding different. But today I'm going to show you some new tanks that I've made. However, these aren't like brand new tanks. If any of you have or remember seeing my videos on my tanks in brick rigs, then you may recognise these, because these are my brick rigs tanks, which I have recreated in Sprocket. Because I thought, it'd be interesting to try and make my brick rig tanks and see just how they look in a dedicated tank designing game. So of course this is the tank that I made. My very first brick rigs tank. So yeah, this is the tank destroyer variant of my tanks, the tank destroyer Td1 Mark 1. It mounts here in Sprocket a 100mm gun because I thought that'd be interesting, sort of a bit like an SU-100. But yeah, if I can select it. As you can see, 100mm gun, 215mm of penetration, which is not too bad. And I've tried to recreate it as faithfully as possible here in Sprocket. So it has got the correct number of road wheels, being 6, and it also has the frontal idler in the rear sprocket, because Sprocket doesn't exist in brick rigs. However, yeah, I could at least do the road wheels and the front idler, and of course, because brick rigs you sort of had to use road wheels, I have used the big tired road wheels for all of the tanks. So we do have the driver's hatch, or driver's viewport rather. We do have the gunner's sight there, with of course our main gun, commander's cupola at the top. We've got a couple of hatches. And then I've added extra detail stuff such as this, such as these things, which I'm going to have to just do this. Yeah, for some reason they keep on popping up over that side. But yeah, we do have a log on here, as you can see, and then tools on the side, and then we've got a couple of what is it? These things, whatever they are. I can't remember. The tow cables, there you go. Don't know why I was struggling so much with that. But yes, we do have the tow cables on them, and then of course we've got the big engine deck, the main engine deck, and then extra rear vents on the rear as well. If you remember my brick rig tanks, they also had sort of like the silver grilling at the back, and then of course we have got the fuel hatches, fuel caps there. We've got the two rear exhausts, which are sort of over this side of the tank, and then we've got the two big aerial masts at the top. It is a 5-man crew. Technically the one in brick rigs is 6-man, I think, because we have a spare loader. I can't remember if it's 5 or 6. But yeah, we do in Sprocket at least have a 5-man crew. And of course we've got the correct engine as well. It's actually pretty fast due to the engine, which is not too bad. And yeah, the gun is a little bit slow to traverse here, but we can at least have it traversing. It does have decent enough traverse limits, as you can see, not too bad traverse. And we do have our 11-second reload time. But yeah, so mobility wise, it does have a 12-litre V12 engine, because the one in brick rigs does have the V12 in it. Armour wise, 100mm frontal sloped on both the upper and lower glacis, 60mm of side armour and 30mm of rear armour. So armour wise, it's alright. Yeah, it could be better. As you can see, effective thickness ranges from 130 to 170mm. However, we do then have the Td1 Mark 2, which I never actually showed. Well, I never actually showed because I don't actually think I ever made it. It's certainly not on the Brickrig's workshop, so yeah, I don't even know if I made a Td1 Mark II. But this is probably what it would have been like. As with most of the Mark II variants of my tanks, the only real changes is things like side skirts, and then Brickrig's exclusive changes such as adding drivers, deployable armor covers for the driver's viewport and stuff, which we obviously don't have here in Sprocket. So yeah, what that really means is that the only real difference here is side skirts. As you can see, the armor layout has not changed. It's still 100mm at the front. It's still a 100mm gun. It's still a 12 litre V12. There's the 100mm gun. Once again, if we select cannon, do this, as you can see, same 100mm gun. Yeah, all that's really happened is that we've added some side skirts for protection against hollow charges and high explosive and heat. So yeah, just spaced armor. That's all we've got here. But every little helps in terms of spaced armor. Always useful to have. Always useful to have some spaced armor on here, because it does at least add a little bit of extra effective armor here. So yeah, all the way up to 80mm of side effective armor thanks to the side skirts. Now the real difference comes with the Mark III variant. Namely, stronger frontal armor, 120mm sloped, also stronger side armor, 80mm, a little bit of extra rear armor, so yeah, increased effectiveness all around, and then we do have the top machine gun as well, which was added. Now, technically, in Brickrig's, stronger armor meant that instead of using default plastic, I upgraded the armor to steel, but obviously here in Sprocket, steel is going to be, metal is going to be the default material, so I just took that to mean we give it extra armor. We just increase the armor thickness, so that's what we've done here. As you can see, effective thickness ranges all the way up to 225mm, all the way down to whatever it is under here, which could be anything really. Probably like 160 perhaps. Minimum effectiveness, and then of course the lower glacis is still 100mm because it's sloped at such an extreme angle under here that it's already got like 300mm of effective thickness. And of course, the side hull, obviously the extra thickness is always useful. So yeah, that is the tank destroyer line with its strong 100mm gun. You failed a shot. Let's see. Gun arc does allow us to get through that, and we did penetrate, but I think his spaced armor took most of the brunt there. Yeah, we just got penetrated, but let's try another one through spaced armor. Okay. Perhaps, yeah, he shot us right there underneath the gun. Interesting, he's not actually doing all too much to us. Oh, he's turned. Let's go for the side armor. We ricocheted. The whole shape is doing its thing. I did make it, the tanks in Brickrig's I did make with quite the odd shape, because I thought, sloped armor equals good armor, so that's why there's sort of like this weird mixture of futuristic style slopes. Yeah, it's actually not too bad here in Sprocket. Actually building it in a tank game, dedicated tank game, is actually pretty good. It could be worse. I have seen and I have built worse designs than this. But yeah, so that is the tank destroyer. Now we get to move on to the first conversion of the tank destroyer hull, which is this, the medium tank Td1 Mark I, which was a simple conversion of the tank destroyer in Brickrig's. And here in Sprocket it was pretty much the same sort of thing. And it was only at this point, building it in Sprocket, that I realised this thing is really weird. I knew it was weird in Brickrig's, but actually seeing it here in Sprocket now that I've built it, it's even more weird. I mean, just look at this. look at this turret. What is this? So obviously, not being the tank destroyer anymore, the main gun has been replaced by the machine gun, which is what the Brickrig's variant had. The hull wasn't changed other than spacing out the exhausts, and these are the closest I have to the Brick-Rigs exhausts. The gun was downgraded from a 50mm, from a 100mm to an 85mm, but it still has a 199mm of penetration, which is not too bad. Now the tank in Brick-Rigs has got a 6-man crew because I made the bow machine gunner his own position rather than just the radio operator, but obviously we don't need that. So here in Sprocket it is a 5-man crew with the radio operator just doubling as the hull machine gunner. Now in the turret obviously we do have the commander, gunner and loader. Armour wise it's identical to the tank destroyer, which means 100mm of frontal turret armour, 60mm of side turret armour and 30 at the rear, and the turret ring is 100mm as well. We do still have the hatches on the hull there, however they're not usable in any capacity. Even if you turn the turret you're not going to be able to use them. So yeah, that sort of means that everyone has to escape through these top hatches, which it's a minor design oversight, I will admit. As for the rest of it, nothing's changed. We've got a spare log on the side of the turret, and we do have the sort of gun barrel cleaner on this side of the turret. But otherwise, yeah, nothing has changed all too much. We don't even have a coaxial machine gun. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's a very tall tank, as you can see. Silhouette is definitely a problem with these tanks. Yeah, definitely not good for the silhouette on this thing. But you know, it's not too bad. Yeah, in terms of mobility-wise, you know, 35 kilometers an hour, which is probably a bit slow for a medium tank, but with a default V12 without changing the transmission or anything, yeah, it could be worse. The turret actually isn't as strong as I thought it would have been. You know, effective thickness is only 133 at the very top there, ranging from anywhere from 130. Well, it's all pretty much 130-ish along here, sort of 125 to 135-ish. So, yeah, not too good. However, drastic change with the medium tank Mark II. Obviously, side skirts along the sides, and also the turret gets squished. It is no longer as triangular at the sides. It's now instead flatter, and we do of course have the spaced armour on both the hull and the sides of the turret. Actual armour has not been changed, but yeah, it does mean that you can side scrape the turret better, I guess. Obviously the same crew as well, and same armour, same everything, same engine, and same gun as well. Absolutely nothing really has changed. But I mean, it looks slightly better, I guess. At least with the side skirts now on the sides of the turret, it is better looking than when it has the giant triangular faces, which is something that we could be thankful for. And of course, the side skirts at least should do something. The biggest change, though, comes with the medium Mark III, in which we get a coaxial machine gun. We also get stronger frontal armour, 120 obviously for the front, 80 mils at the side, and then 40 at the rear, identical to the tank destroyer Mark III. And yeah, nothing else really otherwise changes. We've still got an 85mm main gun, and we also, in the description of the medium tank Mark III on the Steam Workshop, I said that the bow machine gun was improved, by which I meant I just put a regular Brick-Rigs machine gun in there so you could actually shoot it. But I've instead just decided that what this means is that it's been replaced by a 50 cal. So you've got a 50 cal on the hull, because why not? So yeah, coaxial machine gun and bow 50 cal. Yeah, could be worse. And yeah, it's not too bad. You know, armor-wise, it's not all too good. Oh, we bounced off. We hit low on the tank destroyer. Run. Let's flank him. There you go. Yeah, so I mean, it can penetrate things, it can kill things. It's just a pretty large target compared to pretty much any other tank in existence. But, you know, it is my Brickrig's medium tank, so what can you really expect? But the main attraction, this thing. My tentatively named heavy tank. Frontal armor, pretty good actually. 150 frontal hull, 130 lower glacis. Same for the turret. 100mm side armor and 50mm rear. 40mm top armor as well. The other two had 20mm I think, or 30mm roof armor. So yeah, better armor all round. We do of course have the side exhaust, which is how it had in Brickrig's. We got some various tools on the side, bow machine gunner, as well as the driver, and then mid-engined obviously in order to accommodate the rear turret. It is the same chassis as the tank destroyer, it's just been thinned down, and this massive weird turret that I designed somehow on here. Main gun is a 122mm gun, as we can see here. There we go. I was wondering. There you go. I was wondering why it reloaded so quickly when I was testing it. That's because we don't have. Oh, wait. Let me change this. There we go. So we fixed that now. So yeah, it has got a 122mm gun in here with 233mm of penetration. We do have our long ass barrel, and yeah, it's a very weird looking design, as you can tell. Commander's cupola, spare hatch, well, crew hatch rather, front crew hatches as well. Nothing really on the rear, but we do of course have our spare logs on the side and our tow bars on the side. Not tow bars, but you know, those things. And yeah, I mean, it's alright. V12 obviously, once again. Technically in Brickrig's I've said crew of 6, but this time it's crew of 6 because it has 2 loaders, I decided. But yeah, we don't have 2 loaders here. There you go, there's the V12, as you can see. So yeah, 5-man crew, but yeah, like I say in Brickrig's 6-man crew because I said 2 loaders, but you can't have multiple loaders assigned to one gun. And also, sort of, it's a good thing I don't have that spare loader because I need the crew space that's in it. But yeah, 122mm, which is not too bad. Going with sort of Russian size guns for whatever reason. I don't really know why I'm going with that size guns, but you know, makes a change. And yeah, it's relatively slow, but it's probably the same sort of speed as the medium tank. But yeah, strong frontal armor, and the gun is pretty decent as well. Honestly, not too bad of a heavy tank. Plus the turret shape, whilst it is such a weird design, it does mean that it has quite a lot of effective thickness. As you can see, this side turret, even though it's only 100mm, has got anywhere from 200 and what is that? 100. Yeah, it's anywhere from like 280 up to like 300 and something, which is not too bad. And of course the frontal armor here, because it is so sloped and it is 150, just sort of everything. It can sort of bounce near everything, so it's not actually too bad of a heavy tank shape design. And then of course the Mark II is when we get the spaced armor, so we've got side skirts down the bottom here covering the wheels and the track, and obviously spaced armor all along the side of the hull. Now the reason why it's not quite symmetrical up here is because the Brickrig's version does actually have a massive essentially window for the gunner, which is right here for the gunner sight. But obviously here in Sprocket we just have this gunner sight, which is perfectly fine, so obviously we don't need to have the spaced armor as asymmetrical. But just to make sure that it's historically accurate to my Brickrig's design, I have mirrored it anyway. But that really, the spaced armour is the only real design change that came that I could really do in Sprocket of the heavy tank. So yeah, it otherwise drives pretty much identical. The only problem is that the spaced armour does get caught up whenever you're going over relatively bumpy terrain, as you can see there. Go into a dip and the spaced armour side skirts did catch us and stop us from going, so we sort of have to reverse and keep going, which is a bit annoying, unfortunately. But yeah, to be true to the Brickrigs design, we sort of have to have it there. But otherwise, yeah, the spaced armour works perfectly fine. It helps cover and hide the stupid design, the stupid turret shape of this thing. But you know, rear turreted heavy tank, it's alright. The real change, as with all of them, comes with the Mark III, and that's because we get stronger frontal armour, up to 175mm, sides go up to 120, so there you go, we can angle it very nicely, side scraping, we can bounce all sorts of shots. And then the rear armour goes from 50 to 60mm, which is, yeah, not too bad at all. And also coaxial machine gun, which was added, but otherwise that's all the changes that really came from the heavy tank Mark III. Load up the tank destroyer, angle ourselves, let's see if he can penetrate. He did not, he ricocheted, and of course we're going to ricochet off of him. Oh, we're not, we're just going to go straight through with our 122, which is, yes, very, very nice. So that is the heavy tank. Despite the weird sort of turret shape, it's actually not too bad. Not too bad of a heavy tank. So next we've got the light tank, the Td1 Mark 1, as you can see, a bit weird. In Brickrigs, obviously, we again don't have the sprocket, but this is the best I can do. It's sort of like this weird hull shape, but I think I've recreated it pretty faithfully to what it was. And then of course the weird cylindrical turret as well, with twin machine guns, which I have gone into the files and edited so that they are both 50 cals, 12.7mm, and that means it has got 78mm of penetration. Unfortunately though, you can only have one loader assigned to a gun, which means that only one of them fires, because this is a two-man crew. In Brickrigs I had it with the driver being the radio operator and the commander being the gunners and loaders for the machine guns. But obviously in Sprocket we would need a spare loader for the other gun, which means that this gun is purely for show, unfortunately. But yeah, it is otherwise identical to the Brickrigs variant. Front driver's viewport, the crew hatch, obviously commander's cupola right on top. Unfortunately we do not have the strip of glass, which is what made the light tank a spotting tank in Brickrigs, but you know, the gunner sight will have to do. The rear big engine compartment for the V12, and then of course the we've got the exhausts down there as well. Armour wise, it's not very good. It is after all only a light tank. 40mm of frontal armour, 30mm of side armour, and 15mm of rear armour rather. And so yeah, 50 cal. And then just to show, it does still have a V12 in it, except the transmission I changed so that it is much faster. As you can see, off we go, and we are zooming. We zoom pretty fast. As for the gun, I did also change how much space the commander has, which means that he does reload slightly quicker than if he didn't have that extra space, but unfortunately it's still not quite machine gun levels of rapid firing. But it is still quite a fast light tank. You know, it's pretty good. And yeah, it's a pretty decent light tank. You can hold down left click and fire off at least relatively quickly. Yeah, 47 kilometers an hour, not too bad. I've sort of managed to get the shape mostly down from its Brickrigs variant. Obviously the correct number of road wheels and idler wheels and all that. The Mark II variant only really added side skirts, so once again we've got the correct side skirts on here. The 2 radio masks are obviously still there, as is the front side skirts. Now the Mark III once again brings around the biggest change, and that's because we now actually get a 20mm gun with 95mm of penetration, because in Brickrigs I upgraded it to having twin 20mm, well, twin autocannons, so technically twin 20mm, but yeah, that doesn't work here in Sprocket, unfortunately. But nevertheless, we do at least now have a 20mm, which gives us slightly better penetration. But other than that, armour-wise, it did go up to 50mm, 35mm, and then 20mm. Although the hull didn't really change because I just do not have the space in order to change it. But nevertheless, side skirts give it better AG protection, and 20mm does give it a little bit of extra power. And yeah, the armour doesn't really do too much. Let's be honest, 50mm of frontal hull armour isn't really going to stop anything. But nevertheless, it is still the little light tank. You know, it's not too bad. Pretty fast, pretty mobile, pretty cool. And the final tank line that I have to show is the Airborne light tank. Although not that one, this one. The Airborne light tank ALT Mark 1. And yeah, it's sort of like the Tetrarch style design. In Brickrigs, technically, it only has 4 wheels, which are these, the same as the Tetrarch, but unfortunately in Sprocket I sort of have to have the Idler and the Sprocket wheel, so this is the best I can do. But even so, it's turned out pretty well. Armour-wise, yeah, 40mm, 30mm, 20mm, same as the light tank. However, it does have a better gun than the light tank. It does have a 37mm with 131mm of penetration, which is not too bad. You know, engine stuff, exhausts, more engine stuff. I don't know why this one is there. Get rid of you. Yeah, obviously big wheels right there. We also have got the same V12 transmission-wise, though it's the gear ratios has been changed to make it quicker, and oh boy is this thing fast. It's probably the fastest tank I have made, because it can go pretty fast. If we get it over to the strip of road that's over here, and I just send it, you'll see just how fast this thing really is. But it's been recreated as well as I can in Sprocket compared to Brickrigs, and yeah, these Brickrigs tanks really do, you know, you really do see how strange their designs are when you put them in a sort of realistic tank designing game. But there you go, we're already up to 55 kilometers an hour, and we are climbing pretty rapidly. We're up to 70 kilometers an hour now, 75, and there's 80. Up to 85 kilometers an hour now, 86, and we're still going, and we've topped 86.82 kilometers an hour. This thing really is a very fast mobile light tank, which makes it perfect as an airborne droppable light tank, the same as the Tetrarch. Yeah, speed and mobility is what you need for an airborne force, and yeah, the 37mm is yeah, decent enough gun. It's small, so it can be transported by glider, plane, helicopter, and dropped where it's needed. And yeah, I mean, just look how fast you are. You can exploit weaknesses behind enemy lines quite easily. So yeah, very fast, mobile little light tank. Really fun to just drive around. You know, you can sort of dart walls, all sorts, just like a spider. And then, of course, the final variant of it, which is the Mark II, which didn't really change all too much in the Brickrigs variant. All it really added was mud guards and a coaxial machine gun. that's all that we've really got from this. Yeah, mud guards obviously useful. I was able to put some spare tools and stuff on. Armor wise, it was not upgraded, and I stopped playing brick rigs and didn't make a new variant of it. But yeah, mud guards at least makes it look a little bit more appealing. Sort of helps hide the tracks and its weird design. Yeah, it doesn't really affect its handling or driving all too much. In fact, I don't think the weight even changed. So yeah, but that is the Airborne light tank. That is all of the brick rigs tanks I have recreated here in Sprocket. There are some more that I could do, but I just haven't made them at the time of making this video. So yes, I'll thank you all for watching, and goodbye.